Hey, what's up guys, Mashin here, come back with a brand new video with you guys. Today we're going to be talking about selling CSGO items in terms of specifically Stockholm, but obviously talking a little bit generally as well. This video is not sponsored, but I do have a couple links down in the description that if you don't mind checking them out, it'll definitely help me out. So hopping on into the video here, the main reason we're talking about this has really been the increase of Stockholm all across the board. Today we finally finished off the main trio by seeing the Legends capsule go up quite significantly in the past week. And I say the past week, it's really been 24-hour period that we're seeing this capsule increase by at least 30%. So it really begs the question of when are you going to sell Stockholm? And obviously everyone can say they're going to hold till the end of time, but there is going to be someone who sells and there is going to be a great time to sell. So breaking that down. So let's talk about why someone potentially might sell in this situation. Well, if we want to look at the graphs, it's quite obvious. We're seeing crazy high spikes all across the board, and it's almost guaranteed that these prices are going to go down, at least in the small amount in the short term. That's just how CSGO hypes work, and it seems like we're coming roughly to the end of the Stockholm hype here. But there are some great reasons as to why you might want to actually sell. The first one being you need the money in a certain situation. We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit, but the main reason I think someone might sell at this point is actually because of ROI. If that doesn't make sense, at this point, most likely you're not going to be getting the greatest ROI for Stockholm if you're investing in right now. And if you're looking to sell, say you already have some of this items, that applies equally there as well. The items, say we're sitting at a Challenger's capsule for $7. You could take that $7 and you could buy a ton of different things, lots of different cases, lots of different capsules. You could buy into Rio. You could buy a pretty significant, you could buy 28 capsules for Rio. So it's going to be taking that money from something that's a little bit more expensive and diluting it a little bit down to some more items that are on a cheaper level that most likely are going to have an easier time getting a better percentage return. Now, I will say personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this thought philosophy because you're going to be undercutting yourself and you're going to be cutting your profits short most of the time. However, this is one of the philosophies and thought processes commonly seen for CSGO investing. Why do you think the CSGO weapon case 1 has resulted in such a high price point? It's kind of due to the fact that not many people were investing into it, but also due to the fact that who's going to be investing into it now at a $65 price point? Not a ton of people, which is one of the reasons why the case can still increase in price. And that leads us to the next main portion of what are you supposed to sell instead of Stockholm? Well, this is a very easy topic. In my opinion, you're probably going to want to sell off your stagnant items, and I think that seems quite obvious, but it's not necessarily what people want to hear. If you're someone that's very into playing the game, I'm not suggesting you sell off your skins specifically, but if you don't really play the game anymore, skins are usually one of the most stagnant assets. Unless you've got some quite old skins, say from the Huntsman case or something, most of the time your skins are going to sit roughly even. Look at the AK-47 Redline. This has not moved in quite a significant amount of time, and unless you're looking at like an M4A4 and M4A1S, most of the time even updates really aren't going to make an impact on the actual worth of your skin. Therefore, this leads you into a pretty easy situation of you can sell your skin without really having to lose too much in the process. Obviously, you're going to be losing a little bit on the Steam fee, but honestly, you're not going to be losing much more than that, considering that item probably won't appreciate in value during the time you sold it. In my opinion, it can be good to sell off some of your items from time to time. It helps alleviate some of the risk by guaranteeing you that you cash out some of that profit. And we could also look at examples like Berlin 2019. Obviously, ignoring the fact that Berlin 2019 was hyped up due to the fact that there was a major canceled, if we want to look at the fundamental prices of it, you can see here that it got pumped up very quickly and subsequently fell off pretty hard. It's not something I'm saying going to happen to Stockholm here, because obviously Stockholm does have some pretty nice values when it comes to it, and the reason that it's going up in price, although not 100% the greatest, is much better than the reason we saw for Berlin. It's still not a bad idea to go ahead and cash out some of your investments. One thing you'll hear me say quite a significant amount is it's not a bad idea to cash out 10 to 15% of your supply if you can get almost the entirety of your initial purchase price back. That leaves you open to much better investment opportunities down the line, and it's going to make sure that you didn't lose out on this investment if for some reason everything goes wrong, which doesn't really seem possible until it does. So it all comes down to the big question of what specifically should you be doing now, and the very easy answer is really nothing. With CSGO investing, a lot of people like to get hyperactive and try to do too much with it. In my opinion, I think you're going to be getting pretty much the same exact result as someone who's constantly doing everything by just relatively doing nothing. It's not something that you have to be constantly moving around to make a profit, which is one of the reasons why CSGO investing has become so popular, is because it's so easy to do. Now, there is some action that should be taken relatively soon if you've got a couple things that you believe are going to happen. First up being an operation. Operation drops prices significantly, and it's not going to be any different for the majority of assets. I think honestly, if you're holding any cases or skins that you want to get rid of and are just kind of on the edge about it, maybe thinking it's going to go up a little bit more, obviously that's your decision to make. That's your risk versus reward that you got to go through. But in my opinion, I think it's definitely time to make sure that you at least start looking at potentially liquidating those items. When an operation hits, it's not going to be forgiving if you didn't sell off in time, and usually you're going to be competing with everyone else to undercut the market down to a point where it then becomes a significant buyer's market. Obviously, we've talked about this for a while, and that's very determinant on the fact that an operation could potentially be on the horizon, but this also goes for some other large updates. If you believe anything is going to impact the market in a quite significant negative way, this philosophy and this thought process also applies in that situation. Now, talking for what it means as Stockholm for a whole. Now, I think Stockholm's in a very interesting position that most people don't really realize. Stockholm is still in a position of being highly volatile, and that sounds a little bit weird, but there is still a ton of investors out there that have thousands upon potentially millions of these capsules stockpiled away. We know that for RMR, there was 60 some million of just the Legends capsules sold alone, which obviously led to it being overinvested and why Stockholm was most likely underinvested. But the thing is, for Stockholm's numbers, I've talked a little bit about it in a past video, but we don't really know specifically how many Stockholm capsules are out there. Obviously, it's most likely less than what we saw for RMR, but it's still a fundamental problem of not knowing how many capsules are out there, plus the fact that obviously these are desirable stickers, but as the price goes up, we start to see a pretty decent drop off of people actually using these stickers, and more so just people hoarding onto the overall capsule. In my previous video, I talked about how Antwerp is looking much better than Stockholm in terms of ROI, and Stockholm as a whole is really struggling when it comes to ROI. We used to see that the Challengers capsule was much lower than the rest of them. Now they're all pretty much even, which could necessarily mean that we're about to see a drop off in people opening up Stockholm. Obviously, everyone has their own factors that play into an investment. The biggest thing I want to point out or just warn you is to not be blinded by everything that's been going on with Stockholm. Stockholm's in a very good position moving forward, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, and that doesn't mean there's not going to be better opportunities out there. You should always stay vigilant, always stay looking, and as always, make sure you have a great rest of your day.